Have you ever Googled yourself? No.
Yes.
You have. Excellent, excellent. So that's what I did for this morning. Okay, so this is according to Google. This is your very. I mean, this is you. You're a prominent Glasgow-based filmmaker, producer, and the founder of Firewalker Pictures. You're highly regarded in the grassroots initiatives aimed at expanding Scotland's infrastructure, protecting homegrown talent. Your major achievements from include touchpoints with Screen Scotland, include Scotflix, which we'll touch on later. Pioneer Film Studios. You've also the founder of Scottish Screenwriters Festival in the Scottish Producers Circle. So, on behalf of Scottish filmmakers, thanks very much.
Why, thank you.
That's impressive. So, I mean, what began that journey?
Oh, um, well, I guess when we moved to Scotland 7 years ago. So almost eight actually, 2019. Yeah. 7 years ago, yeah. So yeah, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Um, so I've been, I mean, I've always been in the film industry, kind of, and always so I'm French originally, but not I've never worked in France really. Like I went to film school in LA and then I came back to London because I'm the one person you'll meet who doesn't like French cinema. So there's that. So I knew I wasn't coming back to Paris, but I loved London. I'd been in London for a year prior to that, and I just thought the art scene was amazing. So I was in London for about 15 years, met my husband, had my family, and then, but the thing is, I went into employment and I was in studios. So I was in Ealing Studios for about 10 years. And it made a big impression on me. I'll come back to that I'm sure in your future questions.
No, that's
But
good.
yeah, so and then I became an agent for post-production talent and so editors and then I created that agency's kind of directing pool. So yeah, that was it. And then after all that time, in 2018, my husband got diagnosed with neurodegenerative disease. And really quickly understood that there's currently no cure, no real treatment. And I thought our life in London's over. We just had a second child. We were kind of like living the typical London life, where it's like we're in a one bedroom in a very nice place, but it's no longer
Mm.
sustainable. And I think that whole time, we were living in Richmond, so we're, brushing shoulders with Tom Hardy on the street and all of that. And it was just enough to make me feel like I was at the right place for my ambitions, for what I wanted to do. But really, I wasn't really doing anything for myself. I was kind of, I hate the word coasting, but I was kind of, because I had other things going on in my life, but I was, yeah, in my career, I wasn't really giving it my all. And so when all of that happened, I was like, oh, it was a big wake-up call. And Scotland had been calling for a while. I think after Brexit, everyone kind of in my position kind of went, Scotland didn't vote for Brexit. So things like that. But even then, I'm from Brittany in France, and it's very Celtic. It's a Celtic region, which is very sort of close to Scotland culturally. So at the time, don't judge. But I was on my maternity leave and I was watching Outlander, and I was like, do you know, there's something about Outlander, like as just as a viewer, I think there's only two projects in my lifetime so far that have the kind of gravitas to move people across the world, like
Mm.
for that kind of work. And the first one, if I'd had been a bit older and a bit had a bit more gumption at the time, I would have gone to New Zealand for Lord of the Rings, right? Like
Right.
it's the kind of project that kind of, I don't know, there's this, you can feel it, like a certain kind of innovation that comes with it, and I felt that with Outlander for some reason. So I thought I'm gonna work on Outlander, and I Googled quickly and was like, even if I don't get the job on Outlander, I'll get the job in the studios. Like I've been all my life, like most of my life, working life, I've been working in studios. So studios are an ecosystem that, can is supposed to be a bit permeable, so porous to the community, and you can find a job even as a like, Harrison Ford started as a janitor.
Mm.
So I was like, I'll find a job like in the ecosystem and move my whole family overnight. And then didn't get the job on Outlander and then realized, oh, the studio doesn't work like that here. So it's an actively shut door policy. And then so I moved to Cumbernauld. That was me now there. And so yeah, I just started engaging with the community, just mapping out, the industry there, realizing that there is no real production industry in Scotland. There's a servicing industry which is doing really well. And we always see the headlines right now, Batman or Spider-Man, are shooting in Glasgow, and that's great. But the IP money, like the money is in the IP, and the IP is not here. So
Mhm.
that gives you situations where, by the way, I'm sorry, you asked me one question and I go on for 10
No,
minutes.
this is good. This is good. Normally it's me talking for day. Keep going. It's all good.
So like it gives you a situation where, and I think I'm hoping it's changing, but so What Park Studios is in Cumbernauld, just down the road from me. And there is an amazing film and TV department in Cumbernauld College, like in the New College Lanarkshire campus in Cumbernauld, and there is no connective tissue. There's
Right.
nothing that connects the two, the opportunities, like. And when you look at What Park Studios, it looks like an IKEA. Like it's along the M8, and if it was in LA, if you just transplant that in LA, you would have like billboards the size of like football pitches going Jamie and Claire love story through time. Cumbernauld will be known as like the home of Outlander. As it stands, you'd be hard pushed to find a calendar.
Yeah.
So it's all of that like almost like cognitive dissonance that to me, I think as an outsider, became very prominent, and it felt like I needed to do something about it.
Mm.
So I always thought that it would come through a studio that bridged the gap between production and servicing, hence Pioneer Film Studios.
Excellent, excellent. So Pioneer Film Studios at this moment in time, that's, I mean, actively collecting work, or is it, what stage is it at the moment?
No, it's been and gone, Connor.
Oh, see, right,
That
right.
was it was we'll put it under big learning curve.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I had a stint of kind of researching, trying to do things with Ward Park and for Ward Park, and that almost worked. And then, as it happens in this industry, and I'm sure in other industries, but I kind of was let down. And so I was like, I know what a studio needs to be in Scotland, and I can make it. And there was a bit of like that kind of vengeful energy going
Mm.
around. And do not underestimate a scorned woman.
Yeah.
So within 6 months, I'd managed to put together a team, and we were taking over um, Buchanan Business Park in Steps, which kind of for a second there made us the biggest studio campus in Scotland,
Yeah.
which was kind of cool on the TV, but actually came with a lot of learning, really, is all I can say. So I wanted to do, as I said, like a studio that can bring in the American money, but let that money trickle down to grassroots as well. And the idea really, like the utopia is like for every Outlander season, you reveal or you empower like 3 or 4 talents like from Scotland, right?
Mm.
So like directors, etc. And I haven't really seen that happening. Um, so for Pioneer, I wanted to bring, at the time, it was 2022, which is a while ago now. I wanted to bring Crime Series 2, which was about to shoot, had lost their home because the studio, I think, had closed where they were, yeah, at the time. And I wanted that because it was written by Irvin Welsh, which is a household Scottish name.
Yeah.
I'd been following a little bit Douglas Scott, and could tell that he was done with Hollywood and wanted to come back to Scotland. So I was like, this is perfect. So it didn't take a lot of selling at all, actually. They came, they saw, they liked. So they stayed. And that crew that was on Crime Series 2 then moved on to Night Sleeper. So I think after that, Night Sleeper, the BBC, which is on BBC iPlayer, I think, with Joe Cole, shot there. But in the meantime, when I was just focusing on getting the productions in, there were some massive differences with the people that I brought on, and I ended up stepping away. But yeah, it was a key learning curve for me.
Mm. It's funny that when you're doing like collaborative projects and stuff like that, how you really do have to do like, I don't know, social gymnastics in a way to make sure everybody's creative vision fits.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and especially right now, again, we'll come to it, I'm sure, but it's really present for me right now just how aligned everyone needs to be,
Mm,
because otherwise it's doomed. And it's the same for a film, right? Like you kind of
mm,
feel like producing is like alchemizing everyone, right?
mm,
Making sure that everyone's on the same wavelength and singing from the same hymn sheet. And it's the same, I think, as an entrepreneur for bringing a team together. Like you can feel the longevity. And actually, it's funny because I was reflected that back a lot in the last 4 years, where there were crucial people in the industry for a pioneer to succeed, who was staying away. And I've been connecting with them afterwards, and one of them in particular was very direct and was like, "No, I should have, but I really didn't want to because I didn't believe in your team."
mm.
Like, fair enough.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
see that. And then I stepped away, and then I had to sell my shares, and then 9 months later they closed down, so it doesn't exist anymore.
Mm,
Um, which allowed me to, as I'm sure at some point you'll come to, but which allowed me to engage with Dumbarton because I
yeah.
had a non-compete in my contract. So them closing down allowed me to re-engage with the studio
Yeah.
world.
That's exactly what I was going to. I mean, that's right here. It was like that was the beginning of the year, following exactly what you seemed like a one-woman army, quite honestly, with that scenario. Could you talk through? I mean, that's for anybody that's unaware, the studio in Barton, obviously, that's no longer around.
Yes, sorry, what was the question?
No, could you just talk us through exactly what happened
Yeah,
for anybody that's unaware?
Dumbarton. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, right. So Pioneer, there was a whole year where, I mean, I'm being very conservative when I say it's been a learning curve. Like there was a whole year where it was through like the legal process, and I was down and out. Like it was a big disappointment, to say the least. And then they closed down, and that kind of reopened the world of studios. Everyone is saying, non-competes don't mean anything, but actually, when it comes down to it, it really does. Like people, again, it's an energy. Like people just know that you're not completely available. But then when that happened, it kind of freed me up again. And at the same time, while everything was happening, I was like, well, you know what? If I can't put bricks and mortar first and then like the beacon and let everyone in come,
Hmm.
then I'll just go to the community first and work the people, and then the bricks and mortar will come to me,
Yeah, yeah,
and I'll
exactly.
have the people.
Mm,
So doing that, that's why I set up the Scottish Screenwriters Festival, and out of that, the Scottish Producers Circle. So it was about forming the community around us so that we could yeah, build something together,
mm,
really. So when Dumbarton, so when the BBC announced that River City was being cancelled, everyone was up in arms about River City, which I get. That said, when you take a little bit of perspective, you see that soaps are dying all over. It's not,
mm,
it was a matter of time, sadly. But I really do get that the stability that they bring, the ecosystem that they bring, like the careers that they do reveal, and train, etc. So they're a crucial part, but I think the machine itself is evolving.
mhm.
So like the studio world in Scotland is a very small world. And so I was gonna say I keep tabs on people. People, like we have coffee.
Yeah.
So I ended up having coffee with like there's really one guy, I would say, who's kind of cornered the market for kind of real estate when it comes to film and TV in Scotland. So
Mhm,
he's the one guy that, Apple, if they want to shoot here, they'll call him. Disney, like, the big guns, if they want to come to Scotland, they call this guy. So he's the guy who had told me, like, I didn't engage because I didn't believe in your team. But then when he saw that everything was being dismantled around me, then he was like, I'll keep you as a client,
mhm.
as a studio head without a studio. I'll never forget when he said that. I was like, that's so sad and so nice.
Yeah.
So we kept talking, and we just so happened to have, he reached out and was like, let's have coffee. And we did what we usually do, which was basically going through the studios in Scotland and just
Mhm,
going, how is this doing? What's happening there and stuff. And I asked him, what about Dumbarton? And he was like, yeah, I work with, I represent the owners, the then owners. And I was like, they're gonna tear it down, aren't they? And he was like, well, yeah, if they can't sell it. So I knew right away that they were looking to sell. But that's the thing about studios in Scotland, right? Like, and it's slowly shifting, but it was the same with Watt Park before he sold. It was bought by a guy called Terry Thompson, who then sold on to MBS, which is a massive conglomerate of like sound stages in the world. Um, I knew he was going to sell because, like, and you'll know this, but like from the film industry, it stems from passion.
Mhm.
It stems from something inside
Yeah.
that is not completely logical
Mhm. Yeah.
or rational.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
100%.
so, yeah, and so there's got to be that little spark, and even if it's a passion project or anything, you know, it's there's something
Mhm.
beyond just the bottom sheet, like the
Mhm.
bottom line on the number sheet. And for Terry, it was I don't like, you know, when we were talking about his children who were grown up and stuff, it was clear it wasn't like a legacy project or anything like that. So he was always going to sell. And that's the thing is like if it's not owned, if the studio is not owned by a Scottish person or like by a Scottish entity, I will say, as an honorary Scot. Um,
Considering your CV, 100%.
Thanks. But yeah, it's got like the interests have got to serve the Scottish industry. Otherwise, then who are you serving? So MBS, they're serving, you know, the global, like LA based, you know, like entities, which inherently there's nothing wrong, but you just know that every decision, they're never going to consider the local industry. Um, and so this is where I think Dumbarton was a kind of a game changer. It was because it was, so I knew the moment BBC didn't renew the lease, and it was BBC Scotland, so you knew it was going to be for BBC Scotland for the Scottish industry. But if it's no longer leased by BBC Scotland, the owners have got nothing to do. They are Scottish, but they've got nothing to do with the industry. Again, like they're going to look at the numbers and they're going to go, this no longer makes sense. And so right away, I saw that there was a jeopardy, basically, that we were going to lose another asset. And that's the thing also is like going from like the numbers to the mindset. But something that I see in the industry here is it's weird to me, but like a lack of um, honoring what we already have and like valuing what we already have and building on that legacy on the, you know, like because otherwise you're constantly reinventing the wheel and you're
Yeah.
capping your potential all the time because there's no real infrastructure like you can't or overarching strategy. And that's really what I've been the sort of one woman army that you refer to is only just the thinking of how do we connect dots to strengthen the overall tissue, and to make sure we can build upon that. So Dumbarton for me was, yeah, I mean, I'm just, it was obviously a very disappointing result, and that's been a very interesting learning curve as well. But I'm so glad that, you know, we were able to stand up and not let it go without a fight, basically, and kind of stand up for the industry and go, because I think now looking back on it, maybe it was already doomed. Like clearly, like I raised the money, it was there, the offer was there, they had a proof of funding, everything, and they still sold it to a redeveloper. So clearly there were things that were decisions that I was not privy to that were made. I'm guessing even, you know, before, I don't know, before I even put in the offer or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole time I was told that I was the only one at the table, that I had time. The moment I embarked on, you know, with this consultant when I was chatting to him, I was like, he knew, and also like he basically took me out for coffee because he knew I have from the pioneer days, I and my ambitions with a Scottish studio. Everyone says there's no money in Scotland. That's not true. There is
Mhm.
money in Scotland. There's no appropriate funnels for the money to find its way to the industry.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's the outsider thing, if it's the woman thing, or whatever it is. I seem to be able to reach sometimes the money,
Mhm.
and then let it funnel, like, you know, try and find a funnel or build a funnel. But yeah, it needs to land somewhere. But so basically, he knew I had investors around me potentially, or people that I could reach out to, that would be interested. So that's how it started with Dumbarton. So the initial investors that I had on board were interested. They came out to the studios a few times. Um, and then about July time, they said that they were no longer interested. And then it was back to square one. But by that time, I'd kind of mobilized the industry as well. So, and like the press, etc. So there was a bit of momentum. And then I just said yes to everything, every opportunity that came my way. I was just like, yes, yes, yes. So, someone invited me to the BAFTAs. I went to the BAFTAs and I found an investor there.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was so interesting. I mean, I don't know how much details you want me to go to, but basically, also a big shout out to the BAFTAs because I knew I was going and I'm going to make the most out of every opportunity. So I emailed the BAFTAs, like the info at, you know, email. I was like, hey, I'm going to be there. This is what I've been doing. It'd be cool to have a shout out in the opening or closing statement that, by Edith Bowman. And I never heard back. So I was like, that's fine. I'll have nice food and see you and McGregor and it's fine.
Yeah.
And then Edith Bowman in the opening speech mentioned us. I was like,
Yeah.
oh. And
Uh,
so that was a really nice touch. And I think then people kind of started I think like the 500 people were like heard my when she mentioned me. And so then I was easily spottable.
yeah.
No, but it was the BAFTAs were really interesting. It was a good experience as well. It was my first time at BAFTA Scotland. And yeah, I literally just went, I know Peter Mullen a little bit. He came to the producer circle and when everyone finishes the dinner and stands up and starts mingling, all of a sudden it's a lot of people, there's a loud music, like it can be overwhelming. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? So then I saw Peter Mullen, like you have a few people who just like stand up and everyone kind of naturally gathers. And Peter is one of those. And so I just gravitated towards him and in the gravitation I ended up with like talking to a woman who I think came with him and what is one of his friends or something and started chatting to her. She had a red crushed velvet kind of like suit. I was like, that is a killer. She's
Yeah.
like, yeah, what do you do? So I was like, I'm trying to buy Dumbarton. I was like, say no more. I just sold my house or something to like this guy and he has way too much money and you need to meet
Mm.
him. And she literally led me by the hand to him. I shouted in his ear over the music what I was doing. I was like, yeah, yeah, so interesting. Yeah. He put his number in my phone. I by the end of the evening, he'd already texted me that he wanted to chat. So great. And then long story short, I'm about to go in business with his uncle.
Yeah. That is
Which is just
tremendous.
crazy.
Yeah.
But it's so good. And he's been so it turns out his uncle is a very interesting guy and really interested in the arts, etc. So yeah, it's been a funny experience. But he literally like he provided the proof of funding for Dumbarton and he really took a big punt on me and it didn't cost him not it cost him something
Hmm.
to put the proof of funding up in my name
Yeah.
as well. So he was fully behind me. We had a proof of funding for £5 million. We had paid for the valuation. It came in at 2.2, 2.2. Yeah.
Mm.
So we put in an offer at 2. Um, and the day that the lawyers sent the offers in, the owners who had told me, yeah, take your time, etc. And I was like, I'll have an offer in before Christmas. On the 17th of December, we sent the offer. And they came back saying, oh, can you please let Maura know there's someone else on the table?
All
And
right.
this was when it was like, come on. So
Yeah.
then we jumped on the phone. And the whole chat was like they had the proof of funding for 5. They knew I could go up. So I was like, just let me know how much you want, basically.
Mm.
And they were like, no, it's not a numbers game at this point. I'm like, oh, really? So what is it? And
Mm.
that's when you know that it's a bit, and no one likes being manipulated or,
Yeah.
So yeah. And then yeah, they announced in January that it had sold. And the Sun actually revealed that it was sold to Turnberry Homes, who already have a development plot, I think, in Dumbarton,
Right.
and it sold for 2.1.
All right. Of
And
course.
for me, that was like the insult,
Yeah.
like, But yeah, so sorry, yeah, that's the
No, not
story.
at all. Thing is, you know what pops to mind? You said that earlier. You're like one woman army, but you're like I don't know if it's the woman thing or just getting the money and all that kind of thing. Do you know what I can hear from your story? Is it very obviously it wasn't the fact that it was there was nobody doing it. It was that all the variables required for your experience and your life journeys put you in a position where it could only be you doing this. That's it's really interesting.
Oh,
You know, just reading it back, and because most of the time we don't see the domino effect in our own lives. Somebody else has got to kind of highlight it, you know, because we're too close to it.
yeah.
But it's exciting.
Ah, thank you. And yeah, no, yeah, I agree and I see it. And it's only recently that I started seeing it because, yeah, it feels like it's a weird path, right? Like
Yeah.
and nothing kind of, I don't think anything really predetermined me to
Mm.
do this. But yeah, I think you're right. I do. And for the times right now and for Scotland, and it's funny because I think some people are coming at me like, and with varying degrees of, benevolence, but you're not even Scottish. I'm like,
Yeah.
but I think sometimes it takes someone who's not
Mm.
from there to sort of see it and
Yeah.
reflect it.
Well, to be honest, interestingly, when I seen it over that, and obviously when I'm looking over some of your videos on Instagram, you can hear your accent. One of the first things I thought to myself was like, if there's people are setting up foundational things that are going to benefit Scotland, they're Scottish. That's what that is. You know,
Mm.
it's like that's because I mean, is there anything more Scottish than that than furthering the community or the culture in that? I don't really see it. You know.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Well, the way that I see it is, we're here now. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my son has had all his birthdays in his life in Scotland. He lived for like the first 6 months of his life in London, and my daughter already has the Scottish accent as well.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's that weird thing of assimilating maybe or integrating, but
Assimilating. Let's not say assimilating.
no,
Cultural
not
assimilation.
assimilating. Yeah. Integrating,
Yeah,
integrating.
integrating. That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, we touched on that the Scottish Screenwriters Festival. Then, so this year you're going to be launching something pretty special. Do you want to talk about
Yeah. So it's the third year we're coming back with the Scottish Screenwriters Festival. And yeah, the idea is to mobilize the community and the industry and it's putting everyone in the same, it's kind of a mini studio, right? Putting everyone in the same space and seeing the opportunities that come out of that. So in the first year we were really lucky. Um, I'm saying lucky. You work at luck, but yes.
that?
So one of the delegates, the first delegate to actually ask a question to the first speaker, kind of pitched his idea and got constructive criticism
Yeah.
from the speaker. But because he'd been brave enough, and that's what it's all about, because he's put himself out there, he didn't know this, but in the room I had Jonathan Tate, who is the rights acquisition manager at the STV player at STV.
All
And
right.
so looks after the player basically. And he heard that, this guy had a completed project and was pitching it. And so at break, he asked me to basically introduce them. And then he bought his project there and then. And, it led the viewership on the player for about 6 months. Which is kind of incredible for a Scottish indie that's been shot in like 7 years. So it was a really cool story, and it made me see just I can't guarantee the outcome of what happens at the festival, but I can guarantee that I can build a room so that something cool is possible. Basically, I'm building possibilities. That's the way I like to see it. But this year, yeah, we're kind of blowing up the lid
Yeah.
on what's possible. And so in like back when 7 years ago when I came and saw and mapped where everything was at, was like we gotta in the ecosystem, we gotta be able to own distribution at some point. We gotta be able to own the contact with the audience. Like I'm sure you know this again as well, but when you, in the typical traditional industry so far, you have a completed project and you sell it, or if it's a commission, but basically once you hand it back or hand it over to a distributor, you lose visibility
Mm.
as to who watches it, how long they watched it for. Did they watch just the first 5 minutes or the whole thing? Who watched it? Were they men, women, what kind of ethnicity and what kind of age range, etc. So you lose all the data that effectively would enable you to go and then pitch your next thing based on that foundation of knowledge, basically, of what you represent and what's possible for your projects. So, this is why I think in the last few years we've really seen people going to, the rise of the creator industry, economy. I think that's what they say, creator economy. The rise of YouTube and YouTubers, and um, but with YouTube, there's now it's saturated. Like
Mm.
it's so hard to, make your mark and monetize your channel, etc. And so basically, I've been working on it for about like since the end of Pioneer properly. I started pitching it, I think, in 2023, like a Scottish Netflix, like
Yeah.
Scotflix,
Yeah.
right?
That's the stuff. That's the stuff.
Scotflix. And so I kind of, with Dumbarton, and I always thought it would come through a studio and that the app would, like the distribution would come next.
Mm.
But it's been really interesting since I started, Scotflix really became available as a possibility this year when I met Highway, because believe it or not, I'm a creative. Like, I do not want to be running a tech company. And when I was like, some people knew what I was wanting to do, and so I got introduced to Highway, who are a tech startup. They started, I think, about a year ago. And we right away, it was like one of those amazing meetings where like, oh, we're so aligned. This is amazing. And so it was on the both sides because even like the guy I met from it's three guys, but one is in distribution, one is in tech, and one is in producing. And I met with the distribution guy originally with Zach, and it was just like sparks. And when that happens, you're onto a good thing. And he realized what was possible with Scotflix, and I realized Scotflix was possible all of a sudden. So it went really quickly, and I know it's come out as a bit of a surprise for people who knew me, and because I kind of, after the first few meetings of like, I'm gonna create a Scottish Netflix, people are like, sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure,
Yeah, yeah.
go do that. So I kind of kept it a little bit more like in the background, but yeah, with Highway it became possible, and it's been going incredibly well and incredibly fast. And so basically, we're launching at the 12th of September at the festival. We're launching Scotflix, which is the new home for Scottish stories on screen. And we're currently onboarding feature films, documentaries, animations, shorts, podcasts, verticals. Have I missed anything? Experimental films. Yeah, and the idea, so Scotflix is based on the premise that Scotland sells as a brand, right? And I think it's incredibly actually well timed as well with like the Tartan Army, and we know that Scotland benefits from some goodwill around the world.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
yeah, and everyone and their mother in America is is Scottish as well. So there's an audience. And I think BBC Scotland and STV are somehow limited in what they can do and what they can commission and all of that. And there's already so much coming back to that almost like ethos of like building on what we already have. It's really interesting what's happening with Scotflix as I'm onboarding people is people are bringing their first features from the 90s that maybe you went through a festival round but then had no proper outlet. And same for all the, when you look at the what's available right now in Scotland for filmmakers. Like once you've done the festival round, if you don't pick up distribution, then your film goes back on the shelf or on YouTube or. So I think Scotflix in the beginning is kind of this. We're getting both actually, both kind of the creator economy a little bit with like we've got comedians coming, like I can't say for now, but like
Yeah,
very
yeah.
famous Scottish names
Excellent.
who kind of need a next chapter after their established career. And I think this is exactly the spring that can launch them again um, as something that we don't necessarily know them as, and like or like just like deepen their relationship with the audience. Um, and yeah, archives from the past and gems from, buried gems from the past as well. And the other thing that's been really interesting is being approached by charities. Because when you look at, the way charities need to work, they need to make people care. And so they tell stories. And so they make documentaries that you'll never see on BBC Scotland or on STV because it wouldn't necessarily make the editorial cut. But for Scotflix, it's totally fine. So yeah, I don't know how much more you want me to say about it,
No,
but
as much as you like, because I mean that's like extremely exciting. Excuse me, that was actually one
yeah.
of the main reasons why I was wanting to chat because I was like, this is
Oh,
quite honestly like it's like a revolutionary thing. So anybody that's like an independent creator in Scotland is you're lost at sea. There's nothing. You're a speck in the ocean of the
yeah.
digital land. It's like a digital ocean, and that's obviously for the internet. But actually, homegrown talent in Scotland, our own creative bodies that are supposed to fund it don't fund us. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So you're
Left to
kind
your
of
own devices.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So it's like these kind of things are they're so necessary. They're so necessary.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it'll be very at the moment it's very experimental, but it's already very interesting, and I think you're right. I think it's very needed. Um, So we'll launch as there's no subscription fee. We'll launch as a pay-per-view model. And I'm glad you used the word revolutionary because that's what I think Highway brings to the table is the fact that they see the distribution limits as well, especially for the indie scene and for the film, for the filmmakers. And so another thing that's been incredibly interesting to see in how people react to the process is I think there's still something where very deeply ingrained where in the film industry we long to be chosen.
Hmm.
Like we long to be selected for a grant, for a commission, for, a channel, something like for a contract, for a deal, for something. The power is always outside of ourselves.
Hmm.
And so that can make someone very bitter if you're trying to make a career out of
Yeah,
that. Like, you
yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's been really interesting because the model for Highway in general, but definitely for Scotflix, and that's where we really aligned, was that I really wanted to make the IP owner sovereign. So we're non-exclusive. Um, and that's an interesting point actually, because it's come up in on social media and so we're not exclusive. You can be on Scotflix and you can be on Netflix for all
Yeah.
that matter. Do you know what I mean? Like you can be anywhere you want that that will have you, but Scotflix will have you. So we're not here to compete against Netflix or against anyone. We're here to add,
Mm.
basically and also to add to your own steam as well. So basically, the way that a filmmaker would go on to put on a project on Scotflix is that you're on board with Highway, you create an account with Highway. At the moment, there is, so for one piece of content, it's free. For up to five, it's £12 a month for an account with Highway. And then you create, you upload everything all on the one account, on the one page, and you upload all the metadata about each of your projects, etc. And then you syndicate it to Scotflix. So you create the contract. Obviously, we talked before, and I'll send you a separate like licensing agreement by email with the terms. But in order to appear on Scotflix, it's like technically you push the button and then that sends me a notification saying, "Hey, I want to be on," and then I'll, say yes. But the steam needs to come from the filmmaker. And that, believe it or not, has been so far the main barrier to the onboarding process. So people create their account and they're really excited and they, upload and everything. And it's like, now what? Well, now you need to create the contract.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's a whole like how to, right? And it's not complicated, but it's interesting because, and for me, it's also revelatory of that's the business.
Hmm.
That's when you stop being in the community and you become part of the industry. Like when you start negotiating terms, and so at the moment the terms are Highway takes 10% of every transaction at the source, and then out of the remaining amount, I'm doing 70-30 in the producer's favor. So 70% for the producer, 30% for Scotflix. That's what we're launching with. You know, I reserve the right to change the terms depending on what happens and all of that. But we have, like, at the moment, I'm doing 2-year contracts, so 12, 24 months. It's not a lifetime, but it also gives me a little bit of stability to launch Scotflix with,
Yeah, of
a
course.
stable catalog. But again, if that doesn't work and after, a year and a bit you want to review anything, that's the idea. And also you set the price. So the filmmaker sets the price. And then again, like as we go on and we'll figure out what works and what doesn't. But I am not here to be prescriptive. I'm
Mhm.
here to experiment and give you the springboard basically to
Yeah.
experiment yourself as well. But so what it means is all of the data. So Scotflix streams from each individual project's account. So the consumer doesn't know, the viewer doesn't know the difference there. It's like going on Netflix and, on Amazon Prime or whatever. That will be the interface that they'll see. But actually, the technology is that they're actually streaming straight. Like if they click on your project, they're streaming straight from your account.
Mhm.
So that gives you all of the data in real time. And so because there's a transaction and a card transaction, you know who's bought your project, how long they've watched it for, if they watched the whole thing or 5 minutes or whatever. Like you get all of that data that you can then collate and take to another, to an investor or to a channel or whatever, saying, um, yeah, that's what I've got going.
That's.
And you make the
Mhm.
money real time.
Mhm. Honestly, it's really exciting, and I think you mentioned earlier in the conversation, alchemize, right? And interestingly, because this is one of the things that, like, anybody that knows me, like, I do doodles and stuff like that on Instagram, and I'm constantly including the philosopher's stone symbol. I love alchemy with all of my heart, right? I love it to
Ah!
the end of my being, and that's what pops to mind. Essentially, your current Scotflix launch is your prima materia, it's your starting material. That's all that's going on, and all that needs to happen is you need to just continue on the transmutation, keep going, keep chipping at it, and inevitably, we don't know the timeline, but there will come a point where it will reach its gold position, and that means then you've hit it, and that's all that needs to happen.
I love that, Gunnar. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's the thing. If I have one thing to say about Scotflix is that it's co-creation. It is not, don't wait to be chosen. It
mhm,
is, you can choose yourself, and this is the key to actually, it's like amplifier, if you
mhm,
like. But yeah, and then it's kind of it also becomes kind of like natural selection process, right?
yeah,
Because if people don't buy it, don't watch it, then need to pivot to something else or to
yeah,
another, do something different. But we'll give everyone a chance. Like
yeah, yeah.
that's
And
the
so that's quite interesting. So how does it come up on the user interface then? Is there any form of like how would you describe it? Initially, inevitably there'll be an algorithmic relationship between like that process, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for now, it's very much, well, especially in the beginning, but for the first 2 years, I see myself being like it's curation, right?
Yeah,
So there'll be, but that's also the beauty, I think, of Scotflix and as a curation exercise is, we can do like top five comedies. And
mhm,
then, the next week, like, top five, I don't know, Scottish shorts or like James McAvoy's top five working class, feature films. Like
yeah,
we can curate and so make it so that it platforms everyone at some point. But sort of the other thing that I've got in mind that I'll say here, just because I
excellent.
think it's like this is where my inner child comes to play. But basically, we're working on a rating system.
Right.
And why would you have stars if you can have chocolate tea cakes or
Right. Yeah, there we
hamburger
go.
dance or
Excellent.
and then sponsorship and all of a sudden all the shorts are free.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
do you know what I mean? Something like that. And then we can like, make it seasonal
Mhm.
and if nothing else, then if all else fails, we'll just get the orange cones.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's a success
Something.
there. Thing is, no, genuinely though, because you mentioned earlier about how Scotland has this almost aesthetic novelty around the world where people kind of resonate. There was an interesting thing. I think it was Robbie Coltrane. Had this story, and he walked into a bar in South Africa, and then he asked for a pint, and they're like, "No, you're not getting a pint English," and then getting out kind of thing. He was like, "I'm not English, I'm Scottish," and then he got served his pint.
Nice.
There's a weird thing that way, and I think just
Yeah.
the notion of Scotland having Netflix, like a similar dynamic, Scotflix, like it's so marketable. People will look at that just to look at it, you know?
Yeah, well, thank you. I hope so.
Yeah.
That's the idea. That's the idea. I think, the last 7 years have been amazing. And one of the things I'll mention about Scotflix as well, because that's actually one of the things I'm really proud of. Um, I think we need to rely on the whole ecosystem. So from the hobbyist, like the amateur filmmaker and everything, to on the other end for me of the spectrum of the ecosystem, you've got set jetting. So that's a notion that Visit Scotland are sort of I don't know if they coined it, but actually they're using it quite a lot and they're doing research and stuff. So people are coming to I'm proof of it, but people are coming to Scotland for Outlander, right?
Yeah.
And it's bringing millions into the not just my friends, a lot of people.
Just you and your associated family.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. No, but and so I looked into set jetting, and actually, Visit Scotland has an amazing paper on finding your soul in a destination. And we can't deny that there's something like that going on in Scotland. Like, I was reading an article by Brian Cox, I think when he came out with Glen Rodden, his debut feature film that he directed. And he was saying about his wife the first time he brought her back to Scotland and she just asked to stop the car and she fell to her knees and she was like, the landscape is talking to me. And I'm like, how corny it sounds, but
Yeah.
I totally see it
Yeah.
at the same time. So I think that's what resonates and what travels is like people are coming from when you hear Scotland, you hear experience. You hear, it's not just a destination, it's not just the holidays. Like you're gonna have it's the culture, it's the humor, it's the way of life, it's, the hospitality.
Yeah.
I'm French, so it kind of kills me to say that, but but you
Um,
know what I mean? It's and so with Scotflix, we've added so as we were working on the platform, Apple TV had announced that they were releasing a kind of nugget on their on the Apple TV like app basically
mhm.
when they were releasing Imperfect Women, and basically the viewer can track the filming locations in real time and then organize like a trip
All
basically.
right. That's cool.
And it's really cool.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want that for Scotflix.
Yeah.
And so basically at the moment what it looks like is when you go to the platform, you'll see like every basically there's a tool that knows where every project was filmed, and that puts on the, so you've got the card, you've got the visual, you've got, how much it will be, etc. And at the bottom you've got, this was shot in the Stand in Edinburgh, famous comedy venue in the Fringe, blah blah. Book your visit with Visit Scotland. Like,
Yeah.
at the moment that's what it looks like. But I think it's important because it's part of the ecosystem. It's
Hmm.
money coming in, and because and through the film industry or the screen industries, and that's what I mean by joining all the dots and kind
Yeah.
of building like fertile soil, basically.
Yeah, yeah. That's honestly, that's like you've thought on every single element. It's just insane. The thing that popped to mind. So, are you going to have an actual event, maybe in time, an app that you can have on your phone, that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment we're launching with the website, so it'll be
Mm.
scotflix.co.uk. And there's something in the works which, if it works, means that we're gonna launch bigger. I can't
Right.
say much more right now, and
Yeah.
it's so frustrating because I really want to scream it out from like, but let's just say a broadcaster has knocked on the door and we're talking about potentially launching with them.
Right.
And I'm so glad that that happened because, again, they don't see us as a competitor,
Mm.
they see us as potentially aligning with some of their goals as
Yeah.
well. And so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And for us, it means that we would be launching with like inbuilt eyeballs, basically.
Yeah. 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 The
And
thing
for
is that,
them, we're bringing,
yeah, well, that's sorry to interrupt, but that's the. Do you know what this just says? It's just hybrid. That's what this is. So as the
yeah,
old industry kind of falls away, there's this new emerging. It feels like it
yeah.
sounds silly the loss of the Dumbarton studio and things like this. It always feels like evolution is always painful. You know.
Yeah, 100%. No, I see that too. And again, that's what I've like the first part of the year was about processing what had happened with Dumbarton, and I did feel like at some point I was letting everyone down, but then I was like, I think you're right. I think there's a bigger movement happening,
Mm.
and yeah, and look, I mean, if Dumbarton kind of collapsed and then this happened, like Scotflix, somehow lifts off, and it's a good, yeah, it's a good new springboard
Yeah.
basically. And
Yeah.
it's been so interesting because even like my accountant didn't have the same kind of energy when I was bringing him the numbers for Dumbarton as he does for Scotflix, and I'm
Right.
like, you can walk around the studio, you can see it. Like, I
Mm.
really thought that would capture your attention.
Yeah.
And yeah, with Scotflix, there's something like, the sparks again. Like, it's,
Yeah.
he kind of lights up and he goes, no, I can totally see it. I could see that on my TV. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love it. It's so far so good. It's
Yeah.
going.
Excellent. As my son would say, you're building your lore. That's what's going on. You're building your character
Oh,
lore. That's what he would say, you know.
oh, that's
Um,
so good. Yeah,
uh,
the legend.
I think we've pretty much touched on everything I want to talk about. Maureen, do you want to say anything before we get going, or?
Wow, no. That's so much already, Connor. No, I mean, no, thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you for being such a supportive voice as well, and just sliding in the DMs with very supportive messages about Dumbarton, etc. It meant the world. Like, people who did that, it really did mean the world,
Mm.
because sometimes it's a very lonely road and you never know, like, when the doubt hits, and then, those messages are really helpful sometimes
Yeah.
to, yeah, remind you you're not alone and you're doing it for a reason, and yeah.
Yeah. No, you're very welcome. And the thing is, let's say, it's a really lonely place to be creative and be in this place. And as you mentioned before, like Cumbernauld, not like advertising Outlander and stuff like that. There's something fundamentally Scottish where we don't kind of advertise things like acting and almost like showmanship or like what's it called? It's like
Come on.
that yeah, yeah. No, but it's like that,
Sorry.
like like that kind of thing. It's just like show business style things. We don't really. There's a weird
Yeah.
kind of. I think it's because like in the community, you start doing that, like people start taking the piss at you. Bro's going to
Yeah.
drama school, and you immediately you're getting the piss taken at you. No.
I know, and I think that's one of the things that will need to change as we go on. But it's the chicken and egg, like which one changes first. And I think, I mean, I have been shot for putting my head
Mm,
above the parapet many times.
mm,
But I think it's that resilience and that knowing that something has got to change, and the industry is not working for all of us, and it needs to work for more of us.
mm.
So yeah, yeah, let's
No,
do this.
let's do. Thanks, Maureen. Really appreciate this, and
Thank you
just
so
keep doing what you're doing. It's brilliant.
much. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me on, Connor.